My name's Beatrice Nolan. Most folks in Cedar Hollow call me B. I'm 76. My knees click like metronomes, and my memory files things by address and date. Here's the ledger of how we brought a boy home and how that choice cracked the house like a storm front. No tissue, no violins, just sequence. Frank, my husband, kept the limestone plant running with a crescent wrench and a bad back. Our own too. Ethan, 17, already rebuilding carburetors for beer money. Claire, 15, polishing her nursing school essays. After the '89 river flood, Claire dragged me to St. Michael's home on the west side. They never picked the big kids, she said. In a corner sat a narrow 9-year-old with a paperback and a backpack too small. Logan Pierce on a masking tape label. Hair cut straight, eyes that measured exits. The director, Mrs. Harrow, starch from collar to sole, called him bright, reserved, difficult to place. Code for "this file gathers dust." We cleared fingerprints, home checks, fire extinguisher lecture, lock the bleach training, 3 interviews where I learned to smile at clipboards. 4 months later, he crossed our threshold with 3 shirts, a chin scar, and a red plastic fire truck with 1 wheel. First week he rationed words, ate fast, slept in bursts, flinched at door hinges. I set library cards on the table. He arranged them by color, neat as shingles. I took that as a hello. School chewed him. Orphan hissed down hallways. Logan absorbed it like concrete. No tears, no tattle. Then different notes, staring contests, vanishing at recess, a snapped pencil followed by laughter that didn't match the break. Mr. Donnelly, his teacher, said, "He's either 5 chapters ahead or out of the book entirely." At home, drift. Sewing shears left the drawer and surfaced under his pillow. The mantel clock disappeared, ticked 3 days from the laundry basket. My mother's rosary migrated to the bottom of Logan's sock drawer. "Why?" I asked. "Dunno," he said, flat as dial tone. Frank pushed consequences. I pushed chores and chapters. Our compromise. Saturdays on fence boards with Frank, 2 chapters before lights out with me. Year 2 stretched him taller. Voice dropped. Shadows lengthened. He skipped school 3 times and told the vice principal he studied at the cemetery because it's quiet. We set sign-in slips and bus stop checks. He slipped anyway. A lighter in his pocket. Cigarette burns on the shed wall. Claire caught him pressing a key blank into clay. "Project," he said. Frank's jaw set like poured stone. County counseling. Dr. Lambert talked trauma and testing permanence. Logan mapped ceiling tiles, then recited the nurse's badge number backward. 3 sessions. He refused a 4th. "You can't make me." For 2 weeks he was right. Then a truancy officer disagreed. 92 baked the town. Ethan married and hauled south with a toolbox. Claire left for Bloomington. The house grew echoey. Logan lifted weights in the garage and ran at midnight. He wanted brand-name shoes. "Earn them," we said. He mowed lawns and brought home money that outran the grass. Tips. Frank smelled gas on his hoodie and found a circle of melted plastic behind the shed. I called it normal nonsense, right until I found the spare car key taped beneath the porch with electrical tape. School phoned. Absent all week. He walked in at 4 like clockwork. "Library," he said. I held up slips. He smiled without warmth. "Maybe your papers are wrong." That night, $120 disappeared from the flour tin. I asked. He shrugged. Frank told him to return it. Logan leaned on the fridge. "What if I don't?" We hardened the house, cash to a bank box, meds into a combo tin, knives behind a child latch like we were the children. He answered with a bent bobby pin, a lifted hinge, a duplicate key from somewhere we didn't shop. I bought a safe, lag-bolted it to a closet stud. He watched me drill. "Tell me the code," he said, "and we won't have problems." The "we" iced my hands. Dope showed up honest. Pupils blown, skin gray, appetite gone. He denied, then admitted, then denied again. We booked a church detox. Bunks, chores, group circles, locked doors. 2 days before intake, he vanished, returned with split eyebrow and scabbed knuckles. Frank wanted county rehab. I said home first. We split the difference. Our couch, our towels, 3 days of sweat and vomit. On day 4, he stacked plates and said he was done with stupid. We wanted to believe. We did. 2 quiet weeks, classes attended, leaves raked, checkers with Mr. Schultz next door. At dinner, he told me my meatloaf wasn't the worst, which in Logan speak was tender. Saturday, Frank mentioned an early truck at the plant. Logan looked too long. Dishes, bed, lights. Sometime after 3, the air went wrong. Logan stood at my side of the bed, bare-chested, eyes bright like a coon in the beam. "Need something?" I kept it level. He didn't answer. I reached for the lamp chain. His fingers caught it. "Don't," he said. Frank stirred. "Low." The lamp ripped free and smashed. I slid off the far side, found the hall by muscle memory, ran. He followed, feet soft, breath steady. The front door chain caught. I popped it with a yank and splintered wood. I hit the porch yelling for Schultz. Lights rose up the block like corn at first rain. Frank bellowed. Logan vaulted the sofa. Schultz's grown son came in a security jacket at a sprint. Logan cut for the fence. The kid cut him off. Both disappeared into azaleas. Sirens bled down Maple. Sheriff Alma Kessler, the T-ball coach, took one look at Frank's head, me shaking in a robe, Logan pinned and panting, and ordered cuffs and an ambulance in one breath. County ER stitched Frank and asked about charges. Either court then psych, or psych then court, the resident said. Like rearranging chairs mattered. Sheriff filed an emergency hold. Prairie Ridge evaluated him. Acute psychosis. Conduct disorder progressed. Polysubstance use. Padded room. Joseable mattress. 1 visit allowed. He sat in soft restraints. Hair buzzed. Eyes old. "Why are you here?" he asked. "Because we said yes," I answered. He smirked at the camera dome. A week later, a judge wrote, "Forensic unit, indeterminate." That word has no calendar. Afterward, we ran checklists. New deadbolts, window pins, motion lights, keepsakes in boxes, Bible and spider plant left to make the room look human. Church whispered, delivered casseroles, forgot. Frank jumped at the ice maker and pretended not to. I took morning shifts in the school kitchen and afternoons at the church thrift. Moving hands keeps a head from ditches. Social services mailed updates. Med compliant, incident-free quarter, step down considered, revoked. I filed them in a folder labeled state and read them once. What's worth passing on fits on a card. Lock chemicals, meds, keys. Plan for the middle, not the miracle. Learn your county. Sheriff line, crisis unit, juvenile clerk, night judge. Hang the numbers by a landline. If 3 a.m. feels wrong, flip lights, open doors, bring neighbors. Safety first, forgiveness later. Write dates, times, names. Courts, read ink. Ask clean. We require an assessment. Not, we're worried. People want bows. We got systems. timers, laminates, a porch bulb that gets changed on the first of the month. Frank died in '08, Tuesday, hat on the peg. Claire and Ethan bring grandkids who ask about the extra locks. I tell them, because I learned. If you find me in the courthouse basement, I'll point you to the window that actually stamps, the clerk who smiles and still follows the rule book, the hallway to the magistrate, and the vending machine that won't steal your quarters. Then I'll hand you the card. Keep your doors honest. Say the thing once. Carry copies. Call early. Leave when you must. Then keep moving. Part 2 starts with a word stamped in red. Indeterminate. Judges love it. Families don't. 3 weeks after Logan went to Prairie Ridge, a tan envelope landed in our mailbox. 30-day review? Sheriff Kessler slid it across her desk to me. You coming? She asked. I'm not missing it, I said, and put my notebook on top like a paperweight. I built a binder the way Frank rebuilt a carb. Labeled tabs, no slack. Tab A, intake notes, dates, badge numbers. Tab B, school write-ups. Tab EC, photos, melted plastic behind the shed, the taped key, the splintered door chain. Tab ED, St. Michael's paperwork. I needed weight that talked. At the hearing, Logan sat in scrubs, wrists free, ankles chained. He stared past me at the exit sign as if he could will it open. His doctor said, stabilizing, compliant, trial privileges. The social worker said, home pass with supports. I said, no pass, not to our address. We are victims in this case. Clear, cold, declarative. The magistrate marked the box for continued placement. Outside, I didn't cry. I walked to records. FOIA request, I told the clerk. St. Michael's incident logs on Logan Pierce. All redactions explained. She tapped her nails. I handed a typed list of dates. Less room to wriggle. When the packet came, it smelled like damp file room. Pages missing. Black bars fat as licorice. Even so, patterns showed. A fire in a bathroom trash can, marked horseplay. A girl's hair cut in her sleep. Prank. 3 restraints in 6 weeks, each de-escalated. I circled lines, added sticky flags, and booked a meeting. Mrs. Harrow kept her office white as chalk and twice as warm. We were transparent, she said, smile tight as a bowline knot. I slid a copied report across the desk. You wrote, no history of arson. Here is a fire report from the same month. Either your left hand lost its pen, or your right hand did. She reached for the paper. I kept my thumb on it. Adoptive placement is not the place to hide a fuse, ma'am. She tried the pity angle. We do what we can with limited budgets. I tried the statute angle. Indiana Code 3119.13.2, duty to disclose known risk. Her mouth closed. Meetings ended faster after that. Next stop, county attorney. I didn't ask for sympathy. I asked for an audit. Not a news splash, I said. A compliance sweep. Files, cameras, staff ratios. He said he'd think. I left a 1-page memo, bullet points, dates in the margins like fence posts. 2 weeks later, St. Michael's had surprise visitors with clipboards and flashlights. When they left, the director retired for health reasons. Budget or not, light finds dust. Frank kept working nights. Over time, security loop in his bones. He never trusted sleep again. We installed motion lights, a peephole, a second deadbolt. On Saturdays, he replaced porch boards. I sat with the binder, adding names. One of the nurses at Prairie Ridge called to say Logan had no visitors listed except us. I said, keep it that way. She didn't argue. 6 months in, another review. Same room, New tie on the magistrate. Same exit sign. Logan asked to speak. "I want to apologize," he said, eyes steady. "I was sick. I miss home." A bead of sweat slid down the bailiff's neck. I watched that instead of my boy. The doctor mentioned improved insight. The state recommended step down to residential. "Not in our county," I said. "We harvest corn, not trouble." The judge moved him to a state facility north of Fort Wayne. New roof for our peace. My revenge, if you want that word, didn't look like a movie. It looked like commas in the right place. I pressed the school board for a disclosure form on older placements, history boxes that actually had to be ticked. I asked our church to host a night class called Locks, Lists, and Landlines. Sheriff Kessler taught how to call 911 without apologizing. A legal aid lawyer explained protective orders in 8 minutes flat. 20 parents came the first week. By month 3, we needed more chairs. One evening, a woman stood up with a trembling hand and said her foster teen had started collecting knives. Another said her girl woke with bruises and no memory. We didn't share feelings. We shared steps, inventory, photographs, notarized statements, who to call before sunrise. I printed cards, clerk 550177, crisis 550142, night judge, extension 6. People tucked them behind driver's licenses like talismans. A year after the attack, the state mailed an envelope fat with small victories. Fines against St. Michael's for documentation deficiencies, mandated window panels and doors, 2 adult policy after 9 p.m., staff training notarized, and a line at the bottom, families notified of material incidents prior to placement. I slid the letter into tab E outcomes. Then I baked a pan of cornbread and delivered half to Kessler Station and half to records. You feed the people who stamp forms fast. Logan tried writing once. A plain postcard, 3 sentences. Doing groups, taking meds. Sorry about the door. No threat. No ask. I put it in the folder, not on the fridge. Frank and I ran drills twice a year, daylight and dark. Door chain, porch light, neighbor call, stopwatch on the counter. We made it boring on purpose. Boring can save you. Then life did what life does. It stacked other things on top. Ethan's little boy broke his arm falling off a hay bale. Claire passed her boards. The limestone plant cut shifts. Frank learned to fry eggs without smoking the kitchen. We changed the porch bulb on the 1st of every month. Routine is a kind of roof. Years later, after funerals, grandbabies, and a new sheriff, Prairie Ridge sent a form asking if we wished to be notified in the event of discharge. I checked yes and wrote in block letters. By phone, not mail. The call never came. Maybe it will tomorrow. Maybe never. Either way, the list by my landline doesn't expire. If you're taking notes, here's the short of this chapter. Files matter. Ask for them in writing and read between the black bars. Names matter. Learn the clerks. Bring them baked goods. Bring them case numbers. Laws matter. Quote the line, not the feeling. Community matters. 3 neighbors with porch lights beat 1 hero with a bat. Drills matter. Practice until your feet move before your fear does. That's as close to vengeance as I ever needed. Turning a messy night into rules other families can use. Pushing a shuttered system to open a window. Making sure indeterminate never again means you're on your own. Part 3 opened with a rumor that wore a tie. Provisional discharge, the nurse said over a bad line. Placement in a community home. She didn't say which community. I didn't wait to ask. I drove to Fort Wayne with a thermos, and my binder buckled in like a grandbaby. Admissions wanted an appointment. I wanted a supervisor. 15 minutes later, I had both. "We have a standing victim notification," I said, "and a protective order that reads like a street map. He does not step within our county line." I slid copies across the counter. They slid them back, stamped, received. Next stop, the prosecutor's office. New guy, fresh haircut. He started to explain policy. I set my timer for 5 minutes and spoke like reading a recipe. Docket number, date of attack, existing order, distance limit, emergency clause. "I'll file an objection," he said, pen slower than my mouth. "Today," I said. He nodded like a metronome. Then the group home address leaked. Not from the state, from a church lady with a Facebook habit. Sympathetic post about second chances, with a picture of a white clapboard house on Birch Street. Wrong county. Still close enough for my porch light to feel it. I built a county map with a grease pencil, drew a hard circle at 20 miles, and made copies for the sheriff, the night judge, and our neighborhood. We called it the porch net. 9 houses, 1 text thread, 3 rules. Lights on at the same minute, doors drilled for chains, code phrase if someone demanded entry. Practice made it unremarkable. That's the point. 2 weeks in a radio show swanned in. Redeemed. A second chance podcast. They teased an episode about a boy failed by the system and the woman who turned her back. They didn't say my name. They used my street. Lawyers love that kind of gift. I printed the trailer transcript, highlighted the coordinates, and walked it to their downtown studio above a kombucha bar. Producer in a beanie tried to gatekeep. I handed him an envelope labeled Discovery, Plea Allocution, Intake Notes, Incident Summaries with the black bars connected by my handwriting. "If you air the T's unchanged," I said, "you will retract in a courtroom." Beanie called legal. Legal called me ma'am 8 times. The episode pivoted to system failures, with no addresses and no heroine or villain. Clean enough. Frank didn't crow. He replaced the porch bulb at dusk and set a second timer on the stove. 3 a.m., monthly, house evacuation in socks. We beat 10 seconds by spring. Spring brought a knock. Woman in a denim jacket, cigarette in the seam of her mouth. "I'm Joyce," she said, "his mother's sister." She wanted baby pictures, something for the album, closure. She also wanted cash. People who want closure don't ask for 20s. I kept the chain on. "We don't exchange property at the door," I said. "Any request goes through the hospital." She tried a foot wedge. I tried the chain. Sheriff Kessler parked at the curb before Joyce finished her second sentence. "Porch net works faster than prayer." At the next review hearing, the doctor used new words: negative toxicology, appropriate affect, transition readiness. Logan stared at the table like it owed him money. I stood, read a page I'd rewritten 12 times and reduced to 13 lines. No adjectives, no history lesson. He targeted us. We are still a target. Our county cannot be his step-down. The judge frowned at the file, then at the map I'd drawn in ballpoint with the radius measured to the mile. "Placement north," he said. The gavel made a small sound I still like. News crews found Birch Street anyway. They filmed a porch with peeling paint, a wind chime, an aide with a clipboard who said, "No comment" 6 times. I taught a Media 101 at church that week. 10 minutes. Don't answer at the door. Don't touch a microphone. Don't let a boom mic inside your fence. If you have to speak, say, "All legal questions go to this office," and hand over a card. We printed 100. Summer turned. Frank's heart went stubborn in July. The plant threw him a cake and a gift card. He tried fishing and came home with sunburn and a smile that didn't last. Nights he kept a bat by the bed and the window cracked to hear footsteps. I bought him earplugs and a door sensor that pinged my phone and the neighbors, piece by gadget. Then the detail that always appears at the wrong time. A sedan idling 2 houses down, engine off when I looked, engine on when I turned. I didn't peek through curtains. I executed the drill. Porch light, camera app, text to the thread. Car, gray, 2 doors, no plate front. 3 porches lit bright. Mr. Schultz came out to water a plant that didn't need it. Kessler's cruiser coiled the block like a hose. The car left. We wrote the time on an index card and made meatloaf. Letters kept coming from up north, each duller than the last. Medication adherence intact. Vocational group attempted. Verbal altercation with peer. Twice they tried to schedule a victim-offender dialogue. Twice I faxed the same sentence. Declined for safety. Paper is a polite door. A year later, the state rep who ignored my emails suddenly wanted to talk. An election finds everyone's conscience. I brought my binder and my grief in a lunch pail. He asked for a story. I gave him a draft bill. Mandatory, timely disclosure of material incidents pre-placement, county choice and forensic step-down, notice by phone, not mail, funding for crisis beds, 2 counties away. He took a photo with a school bus in the background and filed it with his name on top. I didn't clap. I called the committee chair and read 3 lines until he could repeat them back. When Frank died in show 8, the plant flag halved. The porch flag didn't. After the casserole line thinned, I boxed his caps, left his mug by the sink, and ran the drill alone. Feet, remember? If you're waiting for vengeance with fireworks, you'll be bored in my yard. Mine looks like a stack of forms that scare a producer, a radius on a judge's map, a porch light that snaps on in 3 houses at once, a bill with a comma in the right place. We got our miles. We kept our roof. Takeaways for this chapter: quick and useful. Don't argue feelings with institutions. Argue distance, statute, and clock. Build a neighborhood, not a bunker. Names, numbers, routines. When media comes sniffing, starve it. Refer, record, retreat. Draft what you want in the law and hand it over like a grocery list. Keep the chain on the door and the copy of the order by the phone. Tomorrow might bring another envelope, or a call at a bad hour. My binder is on the counter, the pen tied to it with string. If you stop by, I'll pour coffee, lay out a county map, and loan you a highlighter. We'll draw your circle together. Then you go home, flip your switch, and make sure 3 porches light up when you say so. That's how we win here. Quiet, repeatable, in ink. The next round started with a flyer stapled to the laundromat corkboard. Community Reentry Fair. Employers welcome. Bottom corner listed a booth for Birch Recovery Homes. Wrong county again, but I don't play odds. I drove over with my canvas tote, binder flat inside. The gym smelled like floor polish and hot dogs. A young man in a polo handed out lanyards. Birch had a folding table, a trifold board, and a smiling coordinator who said, "Healed," 3 times in 2 minutes. I set down a copy of the order with the mileage highlighted. "Your radius runs through our porch," I said. "You'll pick a different town." She blushed, called her director, and stopped smiling. Back home, the porch net did a sweep. Cameras checked, chains rehung, new code word for police are on the way. I added one more habit. Every Thursday at 9 p.m., lights off, full dark, we stood in our yards for 60 seconds and listened. You learn a neighborhood by its silence. The podcast tried again. New title, A Boy Named After Storms. The host DM'd me for balance. I replied with one sentence and a link to the public docket. They use stock audio of rain and a harmonica anyway, plus a softened tale about the woman who locks two deadbolts because she can't unlock her heart. Cute. I cut the cute out with a letter. 3 timestamps where they lied, 3 exhibits that proved it, and a draft complaint. Their legal sent a settlement, quiet removal, printed apology in tiny type, and a donation to the county crisis fund. I cashed the last one in copier paper and bus passes. Next came a letter with a gold seal. The state rep's bill, the one I wrote in pencil, and he filed in ink, cleared committee. He wanted me in Indianapolis for a photo. I didn't go. I mailed a 1-paragraph testimony and asked for 2 commas to be moved. They moved 1 and called it a win. Good enough. The thing that kept me up wasn't logos or speeches. It was the gray sedan that returned every other Thursday, idled slow past Mr. Schultz's mailbox, and nosed down the alley. Plate reader grabbed a number. Kessler pulled the file. Not Logan. A cousin. Fresh probation. Address 2 counties west. Motive unknown. The sheriff put a marked car on our corner for a week. The sedan learned other roads. Then Joyce came back, this time with a man who said he was her pastor, but carried a bail bondsman's card. We want to pray over the threshold, he said, heels set like a door-to-door wrestler. I kept the chain on and the phone on speaker. All requests go through the hospital, I repeated. He offered a private reconciliation. I offered Sheriff Kessler on line 1. They left with church words stuck in their teeth. I started holding Wednesday clinics in the church basement. Binders and boundaries. 10 chairs, a pot of coffee, a stack of cheap folders, and a script. We built go-kits, orders, contact trees, photos of locks and windows, bus maps, notes on what to say to a dispatcher when your tongue won't cooperate. I taught folks to rehearse in daylight what they'd need at 3:07 a.m. We drilled open-hand signals for the porch cameras. We practiced saying, "Send a unit. We have a protective order. I will stay on the line." A month later, a woman from 2 streets over used the drill. Ex-boyfriend on the stoop, drunk and angry. She said the sentence, flipped her switch, and 3 porches lit like runway lights. Patrol rolled in under 2 minutes. That's not a miracle. That's muscle memory. The hospital pushed a victim-offender dialogue again. New coordinator, new form letter, same ask. I faxed my same line. Declined for safety. They called to check in. I set my timer to 3 minutes and spoke like a clock. Date of attack, distance rule, county line. We simply thought, she started. Think elsewhere, I said, and hung up clean. Fall, the reentry fairs director tried to place Logan in a carpentry program in a town 21 miles out. 1 mile past my circle by their counting, 9/10 by mine. I drove the route twice, once with the odometer, once with a measuring wheel I borrowed from the school. I printed photos of the mile markers and stapled them to a motion. The judge wrote 25 in the margin and initialed it. That extra 4 miles is a sleep aid better than tea. The sedan quit visiting. The podcast moved on to haunted barns. The bill got folded into a bigger one and kept one comma I needed. Small things, but a string of smalls is a rope. Then the night the rope got tugged. 2:41 a.m., wind pushing the maple like a broom, my phone pinged the back door sensor. Not open, tampered. I rolled out of bed, slid shoes on, thumbed the porch sequence, front light, then side, then a flashlight sweep. Just enough to tell a person there's no shadow to hide in. I called Kessler. 2 minutes, she said. A shape darted across my yard, not tall, fast like wire. He hit the fence, slipped, and I saw his face in the spill of the side lamp. Not Logan. A kid I'd seen at the thrift. Stringy, dirty hoodie, eyes too bright. He vaulted, lost a shoe, gained a siren. The cruiser clipped the curb. Kessler ran like track. The kid folded before the hedge. He had a flathead screwdriver and a backpack full of doorbell cameras. "Wrong house," he muttered. "You're telling me," I said, heartbeat thumping in my throat. By breakfast, I'd already printed a flyer. "Check your latches." We walked the block with a pocket full of screws and fixed any door that sagged. We set 2 cameras higher. We labeled every gate with the house number in fat paint. Petty crime hates a number. Winter brought quiet and the kind of cold that makes wood talk. Social services mailed one more update. Step down candidate. Facility north. I made a pot of beans, squared the stack of letters, and slid the newest into state behind a tab that reads, "Still." Here's your handful for this chapter. Never negotiate feelings with a program. Negotiate miles. Measure them yourself. Train your neighbors to move like a unit. Practice in daylight. Use the same words at night. Paper is a lever. Use it in small repeats. Orders, motions, timestamps, photos, receipts. If media names your street, answer with exhibits, not adjectives. Then take their money for bus passes. Fix other people's latches. The favor comes back at 2:41 a.m. If you stop by on a Wednesday, bring $2 for the copier and your envelope of mess. I'll lay a county map on the table, give you my highlighter, and show you how to draw a circle that judges respect and sedans avoid. We'll punch holes in your pages and tie a pen to your binder with twine so it never walks off. Then you'll go home, flip your switch, and stand in the dark with your neighbors for 60 seconds. Listen hard. That's your territory, learning your name. The next push came dressed like Mercy. A glossy postcard hit my mailbox. New Life docuseries, Second Chances in the Heartland. Episode 3, Logan's Circle. Bottom corner had a familiar logo from a rehab chain that loved microphones more than locks. Fine. Cameras like paperwork when you feed them dates. Same week, a clerk from the forensic hospital called. "Petition for conditional release," she said, voice neutral. Hearing set for a Thursday, 9 a.m., courtroom C. I marked it in block letters on the calendar, then called Kessler, then Claire, then the rep's aide who still owes me a comma. We don't do surprises. I pulled the state envelope, added 3 fresh tabs. Incident maps, radius proof, program fails. I printed the odometer photos, the trifold from their last fare, and a discharge plan from a different case where they lost a resident for 8 hours. Public record if you know which drawer sticks. I stapled every page twice and packed 2 pens. The dock crew rolled into Cedar Hollow the day before the hearing, van with magnetic signs, kid in a beanie asking for authentic B-roll. Our porch camera caught them filming my mailbox. I walked out with a broom and the laminated order. "If you show my house, you show this," I said, tapping the judge's signature. They blurred the curb and left to film a mural. Court morning moved quick. Metal detector, plastic bin, fluorescent hum. Joyce stood down the hall in a beige suit that wanted to be a hug. With her, the bail bonds pastor, and a woman with a clipboard who said restorative like a spell. When she angled toward me, I turned to the deputy and repeated the line I'd practiced. Protected party requesting a safety escort to a separate room. No speeches. He nodded, parked me in a witness space with a landline and a clock. My victim statement had 10 lines. I read it once, folded it flat, set the timer on my watch to 3 minutes. Drills keep hands steady. Inside, they tried the soft rewrite. He's learned coping tools. He wants to build furniture. He regrets how fear shaped choices. The judge shuffled my exhibits while they talked. When it was my turn, I didn't stand. I spoke into the phone the clerk set up like a radio. Date of attack, order language, map of schools and bus stops inside their proposed circle. A short sentence. My safety does not travel by mood. Then I hung up as the timer chirped. The judge took a breath, drew a box around the word radius on my top page, and added ink. 35 miles, no exceptions, no media contact, no docuseries participation. He kept his tone dry as salt. Petition denied at this time. Review in 18 months with verified placement outside the radius. The dock crew filmed the exit sign instead. Revenge, if you need to call it that, arrived on a Monday, via fax. I sent the rehab chains board a packet labeled Inadvertent Exposure Risks, screen grabs of their own promo, placing a halfway bed between a daycare and a shelter. 2 affidavits from residents who were told to walk it off after panic attacks, and a timeline showing their no contact vow taped over last year's press release. I CC'd the insurer. By Friday, their director resigned to spend more time with family, and the Cedar Hollow site paused operations for process improvements. My neighborhood slept better than any resignation letter could say. Logan's camp pivoted to soft pressure. A florist delivered lilies to Claire's clinic with a card that read simply, Peace, no name. We photocopied the envelope, called the shop, pulled the order log, traced the purchaser to a cousin with a shared last name and a mustache shaped like a mistake. Violation? Not on paper. Proximity? Close. We answered with process. Claire filed a workplace safety notice. The hospital added a camera to the side door. I emailed their counsel the order clause about indirect contact and attached the florist's receipt. A week later, an apology came from a lawyer with more adjectives than verbs. I replied with one line, Further items will be filed, not discussed. Then came the busy night. Community center talent show, grandkids in paper crowns. Everyone sugared up on brownies. 10 minutes before the lights dimmed, Mr. Schultz leaned in. Blue Civic 2 rows back, same plate as your alley sedan from months ago. I didn't crane my neck. I texted the plate reader, then Kessler, then checked my bag. Copies, phone, whistle, pen tied to twine. The lights dropped. The Civic eased out early. Kessler met it in the lot, calm as a cat. Driver wasn't family, just the dock crew freelancer, capturing local color. He left with a warning about trespass and a shot of our exit sign. The grandkids sang off-key. I clapped on beat. You can hold 2 tasks at once. The next week, I ran binders and boundaries for a full room. We tested door chains with a fish scale, taught 5 people how to notarize their own statements at the library. and fixed a latch on our way out that had been winking open since '02. A woman new to town said, "B, you make this sound like war." I shook my head. "It's plumbing." Keep the pressure where it belongs. Social services sent another line. No step down at this time. Medication adjustment review scheduled. I slid it behind still, brewed tea, and wrote 2 postcards. One to the rep about a punctuation error in the final bill, one to the crisis fund thanking them for the bus pass credit. Here's the pocket card from this round. Pre-write your statement. 10 lines, facts first, no wind-up. Use the building. Deputies, landlines, witness rooms, ask with verbs. Name the insurer. Programs move when premiums frown. Track indirects. Cards, flowers, peace offerings. Scan receipts. File once. Rehearse exits. In crowds, assign eyes. Text plates, not feelings. If you come by Friday morning, I'll lend you my measuring wheel and the stamp that never jams. We'll draw your circle so clean a judge will nod without looking up. Then we'll walk your block, tighten 3 screws, and remind your neighbors where the streetlight switch lives. The rest is muscle memory and a good pen. They tried a new door. Paperwork dressed like kindness. A production assistant emailed from a throwaway domain asking for old yearbook candids and any charming anecdotes about Logan for a recovery piece. Same day, the high school got a records request citing public interest. I walked the folders to the registrar and quoted FERPA by section number. Directory info only, opt-outs respected. No narrative, I said. She slid me the opt-out list I helped draft in '97. Logan's name was on it. I wrote, "Denied FERPA court order," in block letters and took a photo as it went into the outgoing tray. Next came sugar, with a hook, a GoFundMe claiming to raise transport money for LP's healing journey, run by Aunt Cheryl, who didn't exist the year before. The donor names were real. 3 neighbors and a deacon I respect. I printed the page, called the AG's consumer office, and sent them the court order plus the florist receipt from last month. Then I called the deacon and said 1 sentence. "Please yank your donation. You've been drafted into indirect contact." He sighed and clicked refund. AG posted a fraud flag within the hour. The page vanished by supper. Meanwhile, Joyce tunneled in from a different angle. Zoning. Her rehab chain applied for a conditional use permit in the next county, 5 miles inside my judge's radius. The hearing fell on a Tuesday night where good people are usually at basketball practice. I got babysitters and a clipboard. We walked the block in the rain and gathered 49 signatures. We measured the distances from their proposed front door to a daycare, a bus stop, and a shelter. We collected 2 police call logs about the vacant motel they meant to repurpose. At the meeting, I didn't lecture. I put a laminated map on their dais, 2 red circles, 3 lines, and 7 dates. I kept my remarks under 2 minutes. The chair read the distance clause out loud, frowned at the bus stop measurement, and voted no. It wasn't drama. It was inches. The dock crew surfaced again at the county fair, disguised as regional storytellers, filming kids on the Ferris wheel and aiming toward my grand girl's 4-H pen. I didn't stomp. I intercepted with a volunteer badge and our fair's photo policy. "Parents sign releases at entry," I said, and pointed to the sign with the fair office number big as a billboard. They left with a funnel cake and a shot of the sunset. We ate corn dogs. peace is a reheated snack if you make it that way. Logan tried quiet notes. A church bulletin appeared in my mailbox with a verse underlined and the words, "I'm different now," in tidy block print I'd recognize on a dark road. Indirect contact again. I scanned it, sent it to Kessler, and filed for a modification adding "no third-party religious materials" to the order. The magistrate initialed it between two evictions. The usher who'd been used to pass the bulletin apologized and learned how restraining orders actually read. That's a win. One less path for clever men. Claire called one morning from her clinic, voice steady. "Mom, a patient checked in with our address on an intake form. Not our house, the clinic's. A test to see who would call who." We didn't chatter. We sent corporate counsel the order and pulled the time-stamped copy. The clinic updated their trespass list and rerouted the side door camera to a screen by the charge nurse. We treat these things like leaks. Find, seal, verify. No speeches while water's still running. The week turned tactical. I hosted a paper storm at the library. 6 of us at a long table, each with a stapler, a notary stamp, and a list of agencies that move when politely crowded. We filed a batch. Open records for the rehab chain's incident logs. Insurer inquiries asking about risk adjustments within school radiuses. A complaint to the state licensing board about their habit of losing head counts on field trips. Nothing sexy. 3 weeks later, an inspector's sedan idled out front of their office, and a month later their grand opening became postponed pending compliance review. I watered the mums on my porch and didn't smile until I was back inside. Then the cousin with the mustache tried proximity again. Showed up at the farmer's market 2 stalls down selling hand-poured candles, eyeballing our booth like it owed him change. I didn't turn my back or my volume up. I texted the market manager the clause about indirect contact, the plate number, and the line, "I request removal under vendor safety policy." She walked him out in under 6 minutes. We sold out of zucchini relish and donated the cash to the crisis fund. That's revenge that buys bus tokens. One actual scare. A brownout hit our street after a storm. And for 20 minutes, my porch camera and the motion lights went dead. Mr. Schultz rang my bell with a headlamp and a portable battery pack. We ran a cord from his generator and kicked my system back up. After, we tested keys, checked window pins, replaced 2 weak screws in the back latch, and added glow tape to the breaker box. If you don't run drills when the lights are off, you'll never run them right when your hands shake. Updates still trickled from the state. Medication adjusted. Group attendance good. No step down approved. I put each page in state and wrote the date on the tab's edge in black marker. I never read them twice. You don't need the same bruise every morning. Here's this month's pocket card. Fits behind a library card. Quote the rule, not your feelings. FERPA, zoning distances, vendor policies, cite, then stop. Pull the insurer lever. Fraud flags and risk letters bend boards faster than petitions alone. Treat indirect contact like a leak. Identify channel. Close it. Teach the person who was used. Measure. Doors, radiuses, sight lines. No lands harder with inches. Plan for dark. Batteries, headlamps, neighbors with keys. Practice with the power off. If you swing by Saturday, bring your permit map and a tape measure. We'll walk your block, mark 3 no-camera corners. and stick your emergency numbers under a magnet where your sleepy hands will find them at 3 a.m. I'll pour coffee into a travel mug, draw you one clean diagram, and write the words that keep people honest. I require, I request, as ordered. The rest is doors that latch and a pen that never leaves your pocket. They tried a softer door. Re-entry circle. A chaplain from the state hospital called to ask if I'd attend a restorative meeting for Logan's transition plan. I asked for the plan in writing, the participant list, and the custody status. The facts showed community trial visit, unsupervised afternoons. I drove to Prairie Ridge with a tote of stamped papers and a calm face. The room had folding chairs and a bowl of peppermint. Chaplain, caseworker, a young clinician reading from a script. Logan sat loose, haircut neat, eyes busy. I didn't speech. I slid a folder across the table. The emergency hold, the incident report from our house, the modification forbidding indirect contact, and 3 photographs: front door chain, porch light, headlamp, dated last week. This is my transition plan, I said. It does not intersect yours. The chaplain nodded. The clinician blinked. The caseworker wrote victim declines and underlined it twice. They marked his trial visit as escorted only. Paper beats adjectives. Joyce pivoted to the school board, always a soft flank. She pushed a Second Chances speaker series and tried to book Logan by initials. I called the board clerk before the agenda locked, cited the safety policy and our order by case number, and requested public comment early, 3 minutes. I brought a handout. 1 page, 10 lines, 4 dates, no adjectives. We believe in second chances, I said. We don't schedule active cases. The board attorney asked for the docket. I slid it across. The superintendent tabled the item. They put a gardening club on the slot, which is how 50 parents learned to prune roses and no one learned how to launder a history. Claire set up our house like a clinic. We added peep windows to 2 doors, swapped 1 knob for a lever, moved the key box to a higher stud. The grand girls learned the drill with snacks. 2 knocks, 1 word, to the neighbor's porch, call Nana from the planter. They practiced with a timer, sandals on, backpacks zipped. They think it's a game. That's fine. You can wrap steel in a story and it still holds. A filmmakers LLC floated a permit for B-roll of Cedar Hollow resilience. I looked up their registered agent. Same shell Joyce used last summer. I emailed the town clerk, attached the policy clause about misrepresentation, and CC'd the insurer. The permit died in the inbox. For sport, I mailed a certified letter to the agent's address with 1 line. Cease attempts at indirect contact as defined in order. People don't like certified mail. It has a weight to it. One cousin tried the mailbox trick again. A padded envelope with a thumb drive. No return. Mr. Schultz's son scanned it on a junk laptop in his garage. Empty except a text file. I'm different now. I logged it, filed it, and added the postmark to my timeline. We didn't answer. Silence is a fence if you build it with dates. I taught a quick class at the library. How to say no on paper. 10 folks around a table, 3 staplers, 2 notaries, a pot of coffee. We wrote firm sentences and practiced reading them out loud without frosting. I decline. As ordered. Remove me from your list. A woman from the next town used hers on a podcast pitch that wanted her raw truth. They backed off before lunch. That's a win you don't frame, but it hangs in a house just the same. Then the state set a review hearing. Consider step down with GPS and day work. I don't argue bracelets. I argue maps. I walk the judge's miles myself with a measuring wheel and a camera phone. I marked bus stops, a daycare's back gate, the path my grandgirls ride to the pool. In court, I kept it short. GPS doesn't stop a foot from crossing a line, I said, and handed up 4 photos with inches scribbled in red. The judge asked the hospital if their vendor honored no contact radius overlays. Vendor said, "Not at this time." Petition denied. Logan stared through me like a window. I stared back like brick. Joyce tried charity as camouflage. She booked a church basement for a community healing potluck and passed out flyers without a host name. I called the church office and asked who signed the building use covenant. It was a rookie deacon. I read him the clause about consent of impacted parties and the insurance rider. He canceled the key card, put a note on the file, and invited us to use the hall instead for our paper storm. We brought cookies and the good stapler. A storm took the power again. This time the grid stayed down to midnight. We ran the generator, checked the sump, swapped to battery lanterns, and did the neighbor roll call by headlamp. Schultz good, Mrs. Diaz has her inhaler, the Liuse's freezer moved to our garage outlet. Halfway through, a sedan idled slow past the alley. I took a photo of the plate, texted it to Kessler, and kept walking. An hour later, a deputy rolled by and parked at the corner with lights off. The sedan didn't return. Sometimes the most protective thing you do is walk the block like you own it. The rehab chain filed a fresh application 2 counties over, tucked behind a feed mill. I don't live there, but somebody like me does. We built a packet and mailed it. Templates, citations, a 1-page how to read a site plan, 3 letters to paste local names onto. They denied it themselves a month later. Market conditions. Translation: the numbers moved against them. That's revenge by spreadsheet. I still get state envelopes. Group leader notes positive participation. No incidents. Maintaining. I don't read them twice. They go in state with a date and a clip. The system eats years. I don't feed it more than I have to. Pocket card for this chapter. Ask for nouns. Agenda item, docket number, vendor name. No nouns, no meeting. Bring inches. Judges and boards move on measurements, not moods. Use the covenant. Every room has a policy. Building use, vendor safety, insurance riders. Read the line back to them. Practice the drill cold. Shoes by doors, phones charged, routes walked in the dark. Answer once, on paper. As ordered, travels farther than a paragraph. If you've got a hearing, come by Friday with your packet. We'll prune it to 10 pages, number the exhibits, and put sticky tabs where your fingers shake. I'll draw your map, circle the daycare, and write your 3 sentences on an index card. Then you go say them like you're reading a bus schedule. When they push feelings at you, hand them inches. When they sell redemption, ask for exits. When the lights go out, knock on your neighbor's door and do the roll call. The rest is locks that latch and a calm voice that never raises above policy. They tried a book this time. A boutique press out of Columbus sent a cheery email. Collecting voices from the heartland. Survival, redemption. The sample chapter called me the withholding matriarch. Names were thinly veiled. Dates weren't. I asked their editor for fact memos, legal review notes, and the E&O insurer's contact. She sent emoji. I sent a certified letter naming the docket number, the protective order, and 3 false statements with line sights. I CC'd their insurer. The emoji stopped. If you want leverage, you need records. I took the bus to the county annex with a tote, quarters for copies, and a sandwich. The records clerk wheeled out microfilm like a cake stand. I pulled building inspections for St. Michael's the year Logan's file opened. Failed fire doors, staff ratios out of compliance, a lost child incident logged as resolved. That last word glowed like a vacancy sign. I printed the page, got it stamped, and walked 2 hallways to the civil clerk. Filed a preservation letter on the home's successor agency. No destruction of logs, visitor books, or camera drives. They signed. Mrs. Harrow, remember her, had retired to a lake town. I found her through a garden club newsletter, not a PI. I brought cookies and a notary. We sat at a vinyl table under a humming fan. I didn't ask for feelings. I asked for procedures. Who signed intake? Who had keys to the med closet, where copies of 24-hour logs lived? She said, basement cabinet, and Sister Bernice kept spares in her desk. Then she cried because memory isn't kind. I slid over the notary block. She initialed each page. That affidavit is a lever you can move a building with. Back in Cedar Hollow, the press tried an end around. Excerpts at a college reading, billed as fiction. Claire caught the flyer in the co-op. I emailed the dean, attached the order, and cited the policy on subjects under court protection. He wrote back with faculty freedom. I replied with insurer clauses, room use covenants, and the campus threat matrix entry for known adverse party attendance. He canceled the reservation and suggested poetry instead. I sent him a thank you and a 1-page checklist for his event office because teaching beats scolding. Logan's hospital pushed a different motion. Work crew in town with GPS, supervisor ratio 1.6. I asked for the vendor's contract and the off-boarding plan if a tracker failed. Vendor wrote, unlikely. I brought a bag of small likelihoods to the hearing. 3 photos of the alley where trackers lose signal, a map of cell-dead zones, and a printed email from the vendor's own support forum. Unit drops in rain. I don't argue fate. I argue weather. Petition denied again. The social worker glared. The judge thanked me for the precipitation chart. We ran a tabletop drill at the library. 20 folding chairs and a whiteboard. I wrote 3 injects like a storm warning. 1. Suspicious car at dismissal. 2. Unknown caller fishing for schedules. 3. Documentary crew requesting access. We timed our responses with kitchen timers. Who calls who, which door locks, which sentence travels. We practiced saying, we require names, badge numbers, and a court order, then hanging up. Folks laughed once, then got serious. You can feel a room click from hoping to ready. A cousin resurfaced with a Christmas tone. Family deserves to heal. She asked to scan photos for the book. I mailed back a page with 4 boxes to check. Litigation hold, indemnity, proof of counsel, insurer. She wrote, Jesus, and nothing else. That counts as a no. The press's insurer finally called. We see potential exposure. I offered a walkaway. No publication, no excerpts, written apology on letterhead, and a donation to the clinic that actually keeps kids safe. They asked for 60 days. I gave them 14, settled on 10. The editor wrote a long note about art. I filed it under revisions and made soup. On a Tuesday, Prairie Ridge tested community service, painting picnic tables in a park 2 towns over. I didn't drive there. I wrote the parks director a polite paragraph citing the work release statute and the clause barring placement near youth facilities. He moved the crew to highway litter pickup. Paint takes a brush. Trash takes a mile marker. That's a safer distance. We had one real scare. Power blinked out at dismissal. Radio's dead. Buses delayed. A gray sedan idled near the elementary back gate. The new crossing guard froze. Mr. Schultz's son walked the line like we'd practiced. Knocks, names, code word, neighbor porch. I took a photo of the plate, called Kessler's desk, and stood at the corner with a bright umbrella because visibility buys you seconds. The sedan pulled away. 2 hours later, the deputy called. Misread plate, unrelated warrant, driver picked up on the highway. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's nothing, because you acted like it might be something. I keep building the bench. Friday mornings at the library, we do FOIA. 3 letters, 3 stamps, 1 hour. People walk in with a rumor. They leave with a request number. A teen brought her grandma. They filed for nursing home complaint logs and city camera policy. Next table over, a dad learned the phrase, records retention schedule, and smiled like he'd found a socket that finally fit. Logan's updates still arrive. Med adherent. Incident-free quarter. Evaluation pending. I log the date and stick the paper in state. I don't let those envelopes decide my day. I decide my day with a broom, a list, and coffee that tastes like resolve. Keepers for your pocket. Use the boring words. Retention schedule. Room use covenant. Vendor contract. Boring wins. Get stamps. Copies matter more when they're heavy and inked. Fight fiction with nouns. If they say healing, ask who, where, when, insured by whom. Teach the drill. Shoes by doors, code word known, neighbor named. Argue weather, not destiny. Rain ruins trackers. Dead zones don't care about redemption arcs. If you're staring at a slick proposal with your life bent into plot, bring it over. We'll mark it with a red pen until it's a map of holes. We'll pull your file, build your packet, and write the sentence that says no without yelling. Then you'll go home, switch on your porch light, and label the new folder you've earned. Put it where you can reach it in the dark. I don't do endings with ribbons. I do handoffs. Here's mine. The summer I turned 76, Cedar Hollow tried a Unity Fair at the River Park. Music, food trucks, a small stage. The flyer listed Prairie Ridge's community booth right between the Kiwanis and the Quilting Guild. I circled the date, packed a tote, and walked down at 10 sharp. Kessler had 2 deputies posted. The work crew van idled near the ball field. Rules said 6 per supervisor, no public interaction, no one within 100 feet of the splash pad. I measured with my shoes from the stage to the chalk line and took a photo. 53 steps. Not enough. I found the parks director and handed him a 1-sentence memo. Move the crew to the west lot. Complies with Par 1234D. He read the site and waved the van across the bridge. Never argue. Point and move. By noon, the college table had set out slick pamphlets. Narrative Healing Workshop. I took a copy, circled 3 false claims, and stapled a half-page of corrections with docket numbers. The student sighed. "Ma'am, this is art." "This is discovery," I said, and walked it to the dean with a smile big enough to be mistaken for hospitality. He boxed the pamphlets and replaced them with poetry about corn. Good poem, too. At 2 p.m., the hospital liaison appeared like a storm that missed the forecast. Ms. Nolan, We're piloting supervised town walks. Thought you should hear it from us. I asked for the pilot protocol, radio check cadence, and extraction plan. He had a brochure. I had a form. We stood there like two ladders on opposite walls. I filed an emergency review with the magistrate's clerk from my flip phone. Paper beats optimism. The pilot paused, pending community consultation. That's bureaucrat for, we'll try again after the fair. Fine. I'm still here after the fair. The only surprise came at 3. A man in a collared shirt I didn't recognize asked me, soft as a salesman, "Would you sign this release so we can use your likeness in a documentary?" The line under the signature granted perpetual rights. I said, "Absolutely," then crossed out 7 clauses, wrote non-exclusive, revocable, venue in our county, initialed the edits, and handed it back. He read my handwriting and walked away. Folks think no is a shout. It's usually a sentence you edited. You want closure? Try this one. 2 weeks later, a thick envelope from the publisher's insurer hit my mailbox. Statement of withdrawal. Apology on letterhead. Donation receipt to the clinic in town that actually returns phone calls. I made a copy, stamped it, and slid it into revisions. Then I took the originals to the library and used them as a teaching aid. 10 people learned how to read indemnity clauses with iced tea sweating on the table. We had to ask for more chairs. Logan? Updates arrive like weather bulletins. Stable quarter. Med adherence. Review extended. No calls. No visitation proposals. No drama. I log the date, file the page, and return to my list. If a review ever shifts from rumor to motion, I'll be in the gallery in a clean shirt with a folded packet and a sharpened pencil. Until then, Cedar Hollow gets my time more than names I no longer say. I built my exit plan the way we built our drills. Short, numbered, repeatable. 1. Bench the work. I've trained 3 people to run FOIA Fridays without me. A postal clerk, a bus driver, and a teen who can scan faster than any of us. They've got the templates and the stamp pad. 2. Seed the county. The co-op has a hook with laminated cards. Crisis numbers, clerk windows, after-hours judge. Take 1, return 1. If you lose it, you owe us a fresh copy. 3. Harden the edges. Every church in town that hosts kids now has a 2-adult rule taped by the light switch. I didn't preach it. I printed it, hole-punched it, and set donuts by the stack. Compliance rose with glaze. 4. Make the library a switchboard. We stocked a drawer, clipboards, highlighters, cheap timers, a phone list with names, not just departments. The front desk knows how to start a preservation letter before the oath even dries. 5. Leave a map. I typed a 1-page route, annex, clerk, records, magistrate, and left it under the desk blotter at the diner, the hardware, the thrift. If you can order a grilled cheese, you can file a form. Last scene, if you want one. Dawn, cool air, train horn, low over the river. I sit on the porch with coffee and a pad. Ethan's boys will be by to borrow a socket set. Claire's girls will want bus tokens and a ride to the art store. Mr. Schultz's son, now the crossing guard supervisor, texts a photo of fresh paint on the school curb. Pickup zone stencil. Your font. I text back a thumbs up and a statute number out of habit. I walk out to the little shed Frank and I built. 2 locks, both honest. Inside, a shelf with 4 envelopes. Receipts, reserves, routes, revisions, plus a 5th I added last winter. Relays. That one holds the things other people will carry after me. Passwords on paper, contact lists, the template packet with blanks where your names go. I keep a duplicate at the library in a sealed manila with my name in block letters and a note. Open if B misses 2 Fridays. People ask for a benediction. Here's all I've got. Keep your porch light working and your printer stocked. Learn 3 last names: the clerk who stamps, the nurse who answers at 7:10, the deputy who knows your street. When somebody turns your life into a plot, answer with nouns and dates. Practice the sentence, "We require that in writing." Then stop talking. Hand the next person a copy before they ask. If you meet me at the terminal before sunup, I'll hand you a folded card with the numbers in fat pen and point you to the right platform. Then I'll head home, water the tomatoes, and set the coffee for whoever knocks next. That's my ending. A door that opens, a drill that runs, and a town that knows where the paper lives. The rest is your part. Hold the line. Make the call. Keep moving.